On my tour through the United States, they asked me to present to you, if you were in their listening group, they wanted me to do it three different things. They wanted me to tell you who I was, the accident itself, and then kind of who I am now. So I said, I'm going to incorporate that in my chit-chat with people. So I always start off with who I was. And who I was a negative, miserable, unhappy human being. I was suicidal for over 20 years. I hated living here. I hated being alive. I hated everything. I just existed and survived. That was it. That was the two modems that I knew in life, was to exist or to survive. And this came from sexual abuse that started at age 5. So by the time I was 21 years old, I'd had the better part of 20 years of sexual abuse, and I didn't know who I was except the fact that I was tough as nails, and I didn't care about anybody else. It was me against the world kind of scenario. So that's where I lived. That's who I was. I didn't do anything for anybody, but I don't want you to do anything for me. So we're even. Just leave me alone. And as you can see, that was not a great place to live, But on November 14th, 2002, things changed. Certainly not because I wanted them to change, but they did. So I'm going to tell you about what happened that day. And I had my son. He was 4 years old, and he was sitting in the passenger seat of my car, and we were driving up an abandoned road. And as I was headed up the abandoned road, I was actually going to a friend's house to complain about my life. Again, I had friends that you'd intersperse. I'm going to go complain here, I'm going to go complain there. So this was one of those days I was going to go and complain about my life. So off we go, and as I was going up this abandoned road, and not abandoned, but not a lot of traffic, I saw a lake on the left that was flooded, and the water was running over the road into a lake on the right. And I didn't want to hydroplane, so as my tires went into the lake, the water picked my tires up. I was only doing 20, and as they did, it pulled my car towards the guardrail, and I remember swearing, saying, shit, I'm going to smash my car. Now, I was on welfare. I was a single mother with 2 kids. I couldn't afford to fix that car. That's all I could think of. But that's not what happened. As the car went that way, the 2 passenger side wheels drove up on the guardrail, because the guardrail was buried into the dirt. And the 2 wheels went up on the guardrail and drove on a kind of a 45-degree angle, like something you would see in a roller coaster, So I'm moving into the center of this body of water, and now I'm still upset, because now my car is going to fall into the water, and I'm going to have to get a tow truck. So as I come across into the middle of the water, without any warning, the car doesn't flip off the guardrail and get hooked up, and it doesn't flip on its side. It literally goes into the air, over the guardrail, and out into this lake 10 feet. So it just flew over the guardrail. And I landed upside down in the lake. And I went, oh man, thank goodness I landed on a boggy marsh, because the car would have been smashed. So I looked at my son and I said, are you okay? And he said, yes, Mommy, I'm okay. I said, okay, Mommy's going to put down the window and we're going to crawl out of the car and go get our help. And he said, yeah, okay. So I had hold of him and I put my finger on the window. And as I started to pull the window button, the window came down about 4 inches, and then the electricity short-circuited. And the water started to just barrel into the car. And I knew, I'm not in a bog, I'm in a flooded marsh. And the water's pouring into the car, and now, I was a scuba diver, I was a lifeguard, I was a lifesaver, I'd been that for like 20 years. I used it for exercise, it was kind of my passion to be in the water. So I felt very confident, okay, I got to get out of the car, I got to let it fill up with water, so I went into survival proper mode, I wasn't panicked. I tightened my grip on my son and I said, now listen, when Mommy tells you, you take a deep breath. And when all the air has gone out of the car, I'm going to open the door and we're going to swim out of the car and we'll go get help. And he said, okay, Mommy. And his face said, I believe you. I know we're going to get out of this car. So the water came up over our bodies, and I said, okay, now take a breath. So we took a breath. And the water went up over, and I heard that kind of pipping sound where the air had all gone out. And I said, okay, the air's out of the car. I pulled on the door handle. It wouldn't open. I leaned over. It wouldn't open. I pushed on the glass. But I still had hold of my son. And I realized I can't get out of this car because I'm holding on to him. So I leaned over and I grabbed his body and I pulled it and I put it over my head and kind of pushed him out in the back seat, because I thought, if there's any place that there's air in this car, it might be in the back seat of this car. So I let his body go, and then I had both hands now to really struggle with the doors and the knobs and to try to get something to open. So I spent the next couple of minutes trying to get something opened. And it was at that moment that I needed to breathe. There was no getting around it. So I took my breath of air, but of course there was no air, and I went, and when I did, the water ran into my lungs, and I could feel it. It was like liquid fire, and it just filled my lungs up. And then I went into unbelievable panic, because if I was breathing liquid fire, he was breathing liquid fire. He was obviously trying to breathe too. And I said, we're going to die. I'm stuck in this car, we're going to die. So I went out of thinking about getting out of the car. Now all I wanted to do was find his body so I could hold him as we died, because my thought was, in my last moment, I pushed my baby away, and he's not going to know why did Mommy push me away. So I was in a frantic panic, and I was kind of in the car looking for his body, trying to find a coattail or a boot or a shoe or something, and I couldn't find it, and I couldn't find it, and I was in pure panic, and I had to breathe. So just as I was about to breathe in the water again, in my right ear, as clear as my own voice with you right now, I heard, relax, relax. And it was a majestic, booming type of voice, very authoritative. And I didn't take commands at the best time. I told you I was like a real tough little kid. I didn't take commands, and it was almost as if the voice knew, oh, this is not going to work. And the voice started cooing. You need to calm down, you need to relax, they're coming to help you. And now it was like a lulling, a parent convincing me it was okay. And the being said, they're coming to save you, they're coming to help you, but you have to give yourself over to the water. You have to allow yourself to pass so we can talk to you. And I stopped looking for Evan's body, and I stopped thinking about the panic I was in, and I stopped needing to breathe. And this time zone seemed to just absolutely stand still. There was just nothing except this voice telling me what was going to happen and how it was going to happen. I just surrendered. I put my arms out in the water, and I put my head back, and I said, give yourself over to absolute pleasure. And I died. And, you know, thinking about being suicidal for 25 years, man, that was, oh, what am I fighting for anyway? This is good stuff. So the essence of who I am, my body stayed in the car, but the essence of who I am went off into the sky. And it wasn't down the tunnel or down the light or anything like that. I didn't have those normal experiences that people have talked to me about what they saw. So I'm up in the sky. It's a magnificently blue day, just like today, and there's some little puffy clouds, and I'm in a large glass room. And these 6 majestic beings, 6 or 7 feet tall, show up, and they say, look, we're going to give you the information of how to save your son. They're talking to me about, they're going to come, they're going to help you, and we're going to give you all the information you need to do the energy transfer to save yourself and your son. And they used to say, dear, now dear, dear one, child. You know, very loving words that I really didn't relate to at all, but this is how they spoke. And they said, so have faith, dear one. Remember what we told you and follow the instructions implicitly. So the next thing I know, I'm coming to on the side of the road. 3 things happened that day. 3 miracles beside the fact that we both lived. And they said 3 things were coming. They put them on a board.